Hello everyone. Now we'll be talking about the sixth link and the sixth topic which was provided to us, which were uh, this one is a pretty dark chapter in the history of the Canadian people and for especially the indigenous people and their society and sort of how they have turned up, how much sort of bad things they have seen and how many bad days they have gone through. And so the name of this is We Were Children. So basically, it's about the residential schools in Canada. For a century over, the indigenous people of Canada, the little children from these indigenous homes, they were forcefully taken from these homes, from their families, and they were sort of put in residential schools. So basically, small schools or practically institutions of education, which were run by churches, and they were sort of put in there. And then later, those children have said to been reported for torture and for mental issues. Now, the goal of these residential schools and these sort of the residential schools was to assimilate those children into the modern English culture and to the white society. So basically, what these people were trying to do is erase the culture of those people, those little children, and making them forget their native cultures, their native language, their native traditions, and sort of everything related to their native homeland or their tribes or their indigenous cultures. Now, the children were consistently said to be reported physical abuse, sort of sexual and emotional abuse. Because in terms of children, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse is a very big thing, and they were punished for speaking their native languages, uh, for sort of working in their cultural norms, and they were forced to convert into Christianity by the people who run those churches, and they were subjected to horrifying living conditions. Now, something which I felt really uncomfortable while studying about this was that many of those children, they never returned home. Many of them died from malnutrition, from horrific living conditions, from diseases, and from mistreatment. Many of them were beaten. Many of them were practically sexually abused by those who ran those residential schools. Now, this sort of trauma which was given to those indigenous families and those children, nothing in this world can sort of be done to overcome it, or nothing can be done to for that act to be forgiven. uh, these actions of the residential schools have still affected the indigenous communities, and they still up to this day suffer mental struggles, poverty, and addiction. Now, one thing which has stood out for me personally was that the Canadian government has actually taken responsibility of it. They have apologized for this, and they have sort of acknowledged this the residential schools in Canada, which were run by the churches, as one of the darkest chapters of the Canadian history. Now, in the long term, nothing has helped groups, indigenous communities settle after these terrible experiences or what was done to them. Many up to this day cry for sort of justice, but as we do know that, in terms of children, how can they serve justice to the mothers whose children never came back or those who died there? There can be no form of justice for that. Now, uh, the Canadian government does acknowledge it, and but there has been no sort of proper steps for those people whose children never returned home or those who suffered up to this day. There's a lot of poverty in the indigenous community, and up to this day, it has not been targeted. There is mental health struggles among those indigenous people, and no one has handled it. I hope you guys understood this topic as clearly as I do, and I hope you guys learned something from this video.